Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and today we are actually talking about your DNA privacy because we've got two stories here that are kind of interesting and alarming at the exact same time. Now, the first one is essentially the title of this video slash podcast, and here's what's going on. This is coming out of the UK. A government-approved COVID testing provider is being investigated by the UK's data privacy watchdog over plans to sell customers' DNA for medical research. Now, the company is Signpost Diagnostics. They spell that with a C, not an S for signpost, which trades as Express Test. And they said they intend to analyze the samples from swabs to, quote, learn more about human health or to sell the information to third parties. And that is according to documents seen by the UK publication, the Sunday Times. Now, individuals were usually required to give informed consent for sensitive medical data to be used, but it is understood that customers were basically blindsided when booking through this company. Now, when purchasing these tests, they were actually asked to check a box agreeing to a 4,876-word privacy policy, which links to another document outlining the research program. The reference was removed by Signpost last week after evidence of its activities were passed on to the Information Commissioner's Office, or ICO, which is now investigating essentially them. However, it is not known how many samples have been basically stored by the firm or if they've already been sold or used for research already. The policy said the data belonging to those providing the swabs was retained indefinitely. Now, Signpost was founded in June of last year and is understood to have sold up to 3 million tests. It currently supplies pre-departure and arrival tests for travelers with walk-in centers at sites including Heathrow and Gatwick, both airports in the United Kingdom. So obviously this is a company that is just a year and change old. A fly-by-night just spun up specifically to do this. The quote-unquote research program information sheet seen by the Sunday Times says that the company keeps hold of data including, quote, biological samples and the DNA obtained from such samples. It also states that many of the DNA samples and other personal information with quote-unquote collaborators include universities and private companies that it, quote, may receive compensation in return. Where are those companies? What kind of information? Is your name going along with your DNA? These are questions that we need to talk about. So that's scary if you're a UK citizen. But there's actually more news on this front coming from here in the United States, and we are talking about 23andMe. If you didn't know, an estimated 1 in 5 Americans, or 20% of us, have turned over their genetic material to 23andMe or one of their competitors. These are private corporations. And now that they've got the data, 23andMe is working on drugs. The company is collaborating on clinical trials for one compound and nearing trials for another that could be used for what is known as immuno-oncology, treatments that attempt to harness the body's complex immune system to fight and beat cancer. Now, 23andMe says it's also exploring drugs with potential use in treatments for neurological, cardiovascular, and other conditions, though they declined to specify them. Last month, the company bought Lemonade Health, a telehealth and drug delivery startup that offers treatments and prescriptions for a select group of conditions, including depression, anxiety, and STDs. And this is not necessarily new from 23andMe. If you didn't know, they signed a basically a multi-year, hundreds of millions of dollars, I think it was like $300 million agreement with GlaxoSmithKline, who invested in 23andMe to essentially turn over your DNA samples to them. Now, they say they're randomized, they're protected, but as I wrote an article for Smerconish CNN a few months ago on this very thing, the problem is that these are private companies, which means anybody can invest, including foreign governments, all this kind of stuff, or through the cutouts as we've seen in the past. And so essentially understand that you don't have HIPAA-compliant rights under the law. Now, that's slowly starting to change here in the United States, but at this point, if you've basically spit into a tube and sent it to 23andMe or one of their competitors, the GlaxoSmithKlines of the world are essentially there to collect that information, to use that information, and while you say, hey, great, maybe they have a massive sample size, maybe we can beat cancer, nobody's disagreeing with that. I'm a fan of that as well, but we're talking about informed consent. A lot of people don't realize that when you give up something that is intrinsically and uniquely yours, like your DNA, you're the only one on the planet that has it, you're essentially giving this to a third-party company, and they can sell it. They can do things per the agreements that apparently nobody reads. And study has shown that we don't read terms and conditions. We don't. We just click OK, yes, next, whatever. We want to get to what we're doing. I think that does a disservice to everybody, not to mention the fact that these terms of services are thousands and thousands of words long and multiple pages. Facebook had something like a 78,000 word, terms and conditions until they got caught on that and had to pare it down to like 3,500. And even then, that's reading a lot. So there you go. That is your DNA privacy news of the week. Would I basically give my DNA to a private company? As much as I want to learn about, potential health risks or finding those long-lost relatives, because I can get a DNA test from a medical provider that will give me privacy rights and assurances. So the only real reason I would go to a DNA provider like a 23andMe is to find long-lost relatives. I'm not going to do it, though, not until we have good, adequate, and guaranteed protections. I don't want to give away my DNA because I can never get it back. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please stay private. Thanks, everyone.